Hello, and thank you for joining me on another episode of the Tech Exec podcast, where we triple your impact per engineer. As always, I'm your host, Aviv Ben-Yosef, advisor and consultant to tech executives worldwide. And our subject today is management strength. If you tuned in to the previous episodes, you know that I'm holding a short series of episodes about the concept of assessing your R&D organization and the different metrics and heuristics that you can use in order to tell how well you're doing. A quick recap: if you want to get all of the different metrics, you can check out the link in the show notes and get a free PDF where I list everything, even things I'm not going to be able to cover today. And our subject du jour is management strength. We've talked about moving past rote delivery, we've talked about growing your talent, and now let's talk about your leadership skeleton within your organization. Because after all, the management team should be the catalyst for organizational improvement, for growth. Without a solid leadership team to rely on, you can't expect your team to defy gravity and become more effective as the organization matures and grows. If you do not create a management team that you are proud of, that genuinely understands the profession of being a manager and what it means, you will see your organization slowly deteriorate and become slower as it grows, as it matures, as we've all seen. That's why we say that the big corps are slow. But that doesn't have to be the case. And if you create managers who know how to wield their power, who know how to help people grow, you can make sure that your team will remain as effective as possible and actually become better. Again, we want to triple impact per engineer, and that comes with that bit of extra attention, with that bit of making everyone better. Now, when I consider a company's management team, there are a bunch of different things. And again, some of these are more subjective than objective, but I do believe that you can get it done. So first thing first, there's the management ratio. I'm not even talking about how good your managers themselves are. I'm talking about how many micromanagers you have, not micromanagers because they micromanage, but because they are in charge of a micro team. They have only an employee or two. Your management ratio should be sane. You should not have so many managers that your organizational chart looks weird and bloated. You want to ensure that your average team has at least 4 or 5 people in it. I recommend in my books to aim for teams of about 6 people, not including the manager. And that's a healthy management ratio that helps reduce the overhead, not just the cost of having those managers when it comes to the pay, but when it comes to managing them, when it comes to communication within your organization. Make sure that you're not setting up too many of these micromanagers or nano managers, because boy, that's a waste of time. I mean, really, I see those and they don't usually improve as managers, because managing a couple of people isn't really being a manager. They end up being ICs about 70% of their time. And those ICs that they manage don't really get the attention of a genuine manager. Second, let's talk about how good they are when it comes to the general concept of being managers. I talk about maturity, as in how many of your managers have managed teams in the past, how good are they when it comes to delegating, stepping aside, letting people do their thing, or do they view their role as being the hub, the switch that has to connect everyone all day long? How good are they in general leadership skills? Can they make people see the vision? Can they help create the right motivation? Help people be connected to the company? Do they view their role as being managers, and are they motivated to improve as managers? Or do they just view this as an experiment, as something temporary on their way, something that they have to do because of their career path, but not something that they're actually excited about? How good are they as coaches? Because after all, and we talked about in the previous episode, one of the most important aspects of being a manager, or of being any type of leader, is helping other people grow. You have to be a force multiplier when it comes to helping other people do their work a lot better. And if you're not a good coach, if you cannot help those people around you improve constantly, you are probably a misfit for a leadership position. That's the harsh truth. So think about it. Try and rate the different managers in your organization from 1 to 10 and get a feeling for how good are they and how good is your organization. when you're looking to the future, I also want you to consider, what is your management bench like? If someone leaves right now, how hard would it be for you to fill that position? Do you have people who are a good fit for a management position that you can just promote if necessary? Or do you feel like you have no one and you need to hire from the outside? Because if that's the case and you always feel like your bench is empty, that usually means that you have a problem when it comes to your hiring pipeline or when it comes to the culture that you have, because for some reason, you're not letting people grow into being on the bench. And similarly, look at your past promotions into management. How do you get your managers? I want you to think, how many of them were parachuted externally because you had to hire someone, and how many were people who grew from within the company, who were promoted? And frankly, it's not like one is good and the other is bad. But I do think that if you're only promoting from within, you might have a problem with not having enough mature managers, because a lot of them would be first timers and you're breathing your own exhaust. And only parachuting people means that your people from the inside don't have anything to aspire to. They know that they're going to be capped. And therefore, you need a healthy composition where you have both people being promoted internally and people being brought in from the outside. And once you assess that, as a tech executive, let me tell you, most of your work should be spent on strategy and on making your managers real managers. So this is a very important aspect of the assessment. How proud are you of your management team? Do you feel like you can rely on them? Do you feel like they keep improving everyone around them? Because if not, this is probably the right zone for you to focus on in 2023. That's it for this episode. Thank you for joining me. If you have any questions or comments, my email is always in the show notes. If you haven't yet, do subscribe to my newsletter. It's the best newsletter online for tech executives. And if you haven't yet, do consider joining the Leading Edge Club, my community for tech executives, where we already have more than 100 people worldwide. Links to all of these are in the show notes. And again, if you want to get a free PDF with all of these metrics and heuristics, the link is in the show notes as well. Thank you. Talk soon.